Why owning a boutique gym is currently a guaranteed wealth destroyer. The boutique gym model is officially broken, with churn rates now outpacing new memberships across the industry. We are deep diving into the balance sheets to show you why reinvesting every cent into depreciating assets offers zero scalability. If you want to build actual wealth, you need to see why this business has become a guaranteed money pit. And look, I get why this pitch is seductive. Someone shows you a glossy studio, ring lights, a waitlist, an Instagram feed that looks like a lifestyle brand, and it feels like a business. It feels like equity you're building. But today, I want to actually open the books, because what looks like a growing asset is, in almost every case I've looked at, a treadmill you're running on personally, just to keep the real treadmills paid off. Let's get into the math. And I want to say up front, what we're about to walk through is only half of why this model breaks. There are two forces working against you here, and most people who lose money on a boutique gym only ever see the one that's easier to spot. We're starting there, because it's the one you can actually put numbers to. But keep the other one in the back of your mind, because by the time we get to it, you'll understand why the equipment was never really the problem. Part 1. The 36-month cliff. Here's the first thing nobody tells you before you sign the lease. Connected fitness equipment. The bikes, the rowers, the screens bolted to the wall that track heart rate and leaderboard rankings. That stuff isn't like a treadmill from 20 years ago that just needed a belt replaced every so often. It's a tech product wearing gym equipment as a costume. And tech products get obsolete on a tech timeline, not a fitness timeline. Realistically, you're looking at about 36 months before your state-of-the-art studio setup looks dated next to whatever just opened 2 blocks away with the newer software. The better screens, the class experience that syncs to an app your members already have open. 36 months. That's it. That's the window before the asset you just financed starts actively working against you in the eyes of your own customers. And this isn't a slow decline either. It's a cliff. Members don't gradually get less excited about your bikes. They just start comparing you to the new place down the street, and the comparison isn't close. So you're not just watching a number depreciate on a spreadsheet. You're watching your competitive position depreciate in real time on a clock you don't control, set by whoever's shipping new hardware and software this year. Part 2. The maintenance trap. What do you do about the cliff? You reinvest. And this is where it gets ugly. Because here's the trap. Every single dollar of profit this business generates isn't going toward your net worth. It's going right back into the hardware, just to keep the doors open at parity with everyone else. Think about what that actually means structurally. A healthy business is supposed to generate profit that compounds. Profit becomes savings, savings becomes investment, investment becomes more assets that themselves generate more profit. That's the wealth-building loop everyone's chasing. But in the boutique gym model, that loop gets broken at step 1. The profit doesn't compound. It evaporates into replacement equipment, software licensing fees, screen upgrades, sensor recalibrations, service contracts. An entire category of spend whose only job is to prevent the business from getting worse. Not to make it better, just to prevent decline. That's the maintenance trap in one sentence. You are spending real money, extracted from real labor, to stand still. And when your best case outcome from reinvestment is, we didn't lose ground this year, you don't have a growth business. You have a job, a very expensive job, where the entry fee is a 6 or 7-figure build-out, and the ongoing cost of employment is every dollar of margin you generate. And here's the part that should really bother you. This spend is also non-negotiable. You can't skip a cycle. You can't say, we'll upgrade next year instead, without members noticing, without your reviews mentioning the outdated bikes, without your churn ticking up, because the version of you 2 years ago is now worse than the competitor's version of today. The equipment doesn't just sit there depreciating quietly. It depreciates loudly, in a way your customers can see and feel every time they walk in. Now, if you've made it this far, you might be thinking, okay, that's rough, but it's just equipment. Equipment is a known cost. You can budget for a bad cycle. Fine, here's the problem. Everything I just walked you through, that's the stable half of this business. That's the predictable half. The half you can actually put in a spreadsheet and model out 3 years at a time. What I haven't told you yet is the part of this business that doesn't depreciate on a schedule at all. The part that can wipe out a third of your revenue in a single week with zero warning, and it has nothing to do with bikes or screens or maintenance contracts. It's the person standing in front of the class. And once you see how that risk actually works, the equipment problem is going to look like the easy one. Part 3. When the hardware problem becomes a people problem, here's where it compounds into something even more dangerous, because equipment, as brutal as that math is at least predictable. You can model a 36-month replacement cycle. You can budget for it, even if the budget hurts. What you can't model nearly as well is the volatility sitting on the other side of the business. Your human capital and the churn that comes with it. Boutique Fitness doesn't sell equipment access, it sells instructors. It sells the specific coach whose class members show up for, whose energy is the actual product, whose name is the reason someone renews their membership instead of canceling. And that means your most valuable asset walks out the door every single night. It doesn't depreciate on a predictable schedule like a bike does. It can just leave. Tomorrow. To open their own studio 3 miles away. Taking a chunk of your member base with them. Because the members were never loyal to your brand. They were loyal to a person. So now overlay that on top of the equipment problem. You've got a physical asset base that requires constant reinvestment just to avoid decline. And a human asset base that's even more volatile, harder to retain, and impossible to depreciate schedule your way around. When a star instructor leaves, you don't lose a line item. You lose the revenue tied to every member who was there for them. That shows up in your churn number immediately. And remember, we started this whole conversation with an industry where churn is already outpacing new memberships. You're not managing decline from a position of strength. You're managing 2 compounding sources of decline at the same time, with a cost structure that eats your margin either way. And that's really the core of why this model doesn't scale the way people think it does when they buy in. Scalability means the second location, the 5th location. The 50th location gets easier and cheaper because you're leveraging something repeatable, a system, a brand, an asset that appreciates, or at least holds. Here, every new location just multiplies your exposure to both problems. More equipment on the 36-month cliff. More star instructors who can walk. You're not building one wealth-generating asset and replicating it. You're building N copies of the same money pit, where this leaves you. So put it together. You're financing hardware that's functionally obsolete inside 3 years. You're forced to reinvest every dollar of profit just to tread water on that hardware, which means the business structurally cannot compound wealth for you the way an actual investment does. And the other half of your value proposition, your people, is even less stable. Walking away with your member relationships whenever they want. In an industry where retention is already the #1 problem everyone's fighting. That's not a business with a rough patch. That's a business model with the wealth-destroying mechanics built into its foundation. The glossy studio, the wait list, the brand, none of that changes the balance sheet underneath it. And if you're evaluating this as an investment, not a passion project, the balance sheet is the only thing that should be doing the talking. If you're currently in this model, or you're about to sign on the dotted line for one. And if you want the follow-up on what a boutique fitness business would actually need to look like structurally to not fall into this trap, let me know, because there is a version of this that works. It's just not the version most people are being sold.